Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Jenkins here, bringing you the second installment of Heroes of the Week. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Our up-and-coming hero for this week is Chaos Knight. Chaos Strike currently, as of the most recent patch, has a 4-second cooldown at all levels. This makes it super effective for trading in lane because it's a crit. So essentially do a lot of damage, just like when Brewmaster got his crit, people were just using that to trade in lane, but it also has lifesteal, which makes it so you don't really need that much regen in the lane. In fact, you can even cut creep waves and kill the entire creep wave and keep healing yourself to full HP, because that's how mathematically effective this crit is, and people tend to max it for offlane or for carry CK. Before, Chaos Knight had a skill set that was great for offlaners in the mid game, and of course he was a great carry. And this is especially true with the change to Reality Rift being, instead of a minus armor, it was a convenient slow. This also just made him a lot more consistent with killing people in the early game. It wasn't just like, okay, you want to pull somebody in and crit them once and get lucky. Now you have the guaranteed crit, and you have the slow so you can keep hitting them. So essentially he's this tanky, frontlining, stunning, amazingly scaling semi-carry that can crush a kill lane, because that's always been something that he's been able to do because he has one of the best stuns in the game. But problems arose for Chaos Knight when you couldn't kill your laning opponent. Before, it was not about sustaining, it was not about healing, it was not about out-trading them, it was just killing. You couldn't do any sort of heavy sustain, you couldn't do any harass, and if you were against heavy sustain or harass, you'd just essentially lose the lane. Now, this is no longer the case, because he's much better at trading, and as I previously mentioned, he has some very typical offlaner options for dealing effectively with both difficult and easy lanes. So now he can be played in both roles very effectively, both side lane roles, I should say. Chaos Strike now, like I said, has a guaranteed crit on all illusions. This means that you basically are guaranteed to one-shot even a moderately squishy hero like a Razor, as we just saw, with the Reality Rift, because you're just guaranteed to crit on all of the illusions at once, and they're going to do 100% damage when you have it maxed out. And this is true without even having a lot of items, just because CK has really good strength gain. This makes CK great at being an aura building offlaner, but still an excellent carry. But he's much more consistent in terms of his damage output. In fact, many of his skills have actually been changed to behave more consistently, such as the removal of the crit, and now it's, well, the removal of the chance of the crit, now it's guaranteed, and the change to Reality Rift, where it now pulls a designated amount of distance rather than just random, and so forth. He's just not such a random hero. How you want to play this hero is you basically go to the offlane or the safe lane, wherever you want to play, trade with people using your crit. Max this skill over anything else. Then you want to eventually have them run out of regen, and you won't. And then this is when you try to kill them with your stun, when they're a little bit low, probably 40 to 60% HP, depending on how strong you are. Build into Midas, and then drums plus aura items if you have damage. Build into Midas plus armlet plus damage items if you feel like you need more semi-carry or you have an aura builder already. Then what you want to do is fight around your cooldown and then split farm, gank, and make space otherwise. How you counter this hero is you need heroes that clear illusions, such as Tinker or Legion Commander. You can also pick heroes that won't get pressured by Chaos Knight in lane, because that's one of the big selling points of this hero right now, is that it doesn't matter what he's laning against, he's going to have a good lane and he's going to apply pressure. So you can pick Lifestealer plus any support, or Juggernaut plus Lich, because they can just farm in that lane, because Chaos Knight can't stun those heroes due to the magic immunity. So our overrated hero for this week is Lifestealer, and before I get into it, I want to mention that I don't think this hero is bad. I think that this hero is overrated, and his win rate probably shouldn't be at about 60% in pro-level pubs. It should probably be closer to, I don't know, 52% or something like that. So it's not bad, just overrated. So this hero got buffed in the most recent patch. Of course, he was given plus 2 armor and plus 15 movement speed, most notably. So people immediately tried out the hero and found out that it was strong in the current meta. A lot of streamers played it too. That helps out with gaining notoriety of a hero being strong. My theory on this hero is that we are in a transitionary period where people are still essentially figuring out what's good and picking half old meta stuff, half new meta stuff, and as a result, this hero's glaring issues are being completely ignored in pubs. Of course, this isn't that bold of a statement to make because there has not been a land yet on this patch, and of course, what pros are picking will eventually trickle down to pubs, so it's not bold, but nonetheless, it's still the truth. I think that this is very relevant when considering Lifestealer. I think that the meta will eventually shift, and if Lifestealer remains strong in that meta, then he will be addressed by captains, and then in terms of counter picks, in terms of counter plays, and then pubs will eventually learn that, and his win rate in pubs will go down. So with that being said, what are some ways of currently dealing with Lifestealer that people aren't doing right now? For one, Lifestealer really likes laning against tanky melee offlaners, which has essentially been the meta for all of 7.20 and is still currently the meta. On top of that, Lifestealer does not jungle well at all, compared to something like a Terrorblade. He can jungle, he can do it, but he's not fast. And this, in my opinion, is one of the biggest problems that Lifestealer has. What happens if you are laning against a Weaver, a Razor, or an Ursa, and instead of a tanky melee hero, and then instead of having a safe lane that you could just rotate to, there's like a Terrorblade in the enemy safe lane. So you make that lane rotation, and sure, you have a decent lane on Lifestealer, but then the Terrorblade has a free lane, and then the Weaver or Ursa or whatever probably has a free lane as well. You're essentially losing 2 lanes, or giving 2 lanes that are winning to the enemy team, which is obviously very bad, because mid will definitely, most of the time, be like a wash. So you're just having the enemy team have 3 good lanes, and that obviously is a bad situation for this hero to be in, and in my opinion makes the hero not as great as people think it is right now. And essentially, basically, I think that in this patch, Lifestealer is just not getting countered in the laning stage. Another problem that Lifestealer has is surviving versus heroes that just don't give a shit about his rage magic immunity. Once again, Razors, Weavers, and Ursas come to mind for cores, and Banes, Shadow Demons come to mind in terms of supports, like heroes that can just deal with him, disregarding the fact that he has magic immunity. I'm seeing in so many games, this hero doesn't get pressured at all in the lane. He's never forced to go jungle. He's playing against some Shadow Shamans, Shadow Fiends, and he just shreds through them, and they can't do anything to him because he just rages and runs at them. Basically, the reason this hero is strong right now is because people aren't picking counters to him, because he sucked in the previous patch, and when they are countering him, they aren't laning against him and just obliterating him. Our underrated hero for this week is Treant Protector. Roger is currently picking this hero quite a bit as a 4 in pubs, and I think I've seen Seb and Mind Control picking it as an offlaner, so it's got about a 55% win rate in high-rated pubs, and this is pretty impressive when you consider the fact that it's picked in roles that are picked in like the first 2 picks of a game, so usually those heroes will have a lower win rate. Everybody is currently building Midases in the current pub meta right now. I'm not going to say whether or not I think that's good or fun or shit or whatever, but for this reason, a lot of games have essentially boiled down to who has better late game, who can survive the early game. Treant Protector, especially with the buffs to Living Armor, is conveniently amazing at just armoring towers and delaying the game so that it eventually goes late, your Midases kick in, your heroes kick in that are good in the late game, and you win the game. I recently watched a pub where Mind Control maxed Living Armor, and then he got the Living Armor talent at level 10, and then he went 0 points in Invis, and armored towers while his whole team, including himself, built Midases, and eventually, slowly but surely, took control of the map and subsequently the game. Moreover, the reworks to Treant Protector's Invis were initially seen as a nerf by most players, and I think they were before it got buffed a little bit and other things about this hero were changed, but it more so changed the utility of the ability, at least in the current patch, and it's arguably better how it is right now for core Treants. Essentially, Nature's Guise was changed, so now it does damage, it has a lower fade time, and it lets you phase through trees, which is pretty cool. But the downside is if you get hit while fading into Invis, the fade resets. So Treant is a lot easier to kill if he's running around trying to be sneaky in the jungle and such. So essentially, if you don't care about the fade resetting, then it was strictly a buff. And as a core, you don't care as much about being caught out, because that's kind of how tanky offlaners want to function. As a 4, especially given the fact that every hero has more stats, so Treant Protector is more tanky than he was in the previous patch, essentially, you don't really care if you get caught out. It's fine. One final note that I want to make on why I think this hero's win rate is so high right now is essentially because it's really good against the current set of heroes that are strong. Treant is one of the ultimate kiting heroes in Dota because his ult allows you to literally kite BKB targets, and so does his Nature's Guise, the root. And between the root and the ult, you can almost permanently lock somebody down, and when you get the talent for Nature's Guise root, you can permanently lock somebody down, even if they have a BKB. This means if you're looking for a solution to Lifestealer, Juggernaut, Ursa, Chaos Knight, this may be the hero that you're looking for, especially if you're a 3 or a 4 player, or a 5 player for that matter. So how you play this hero is basically you max invis if you're a support, and just run at people and punch them in the lane because you have so much damage. If you're a core, you max living armor and punch people in the lane, but instead of continuing punching people after the lane, you want to just living armor every single tower as much as you can. You want to eventually build into a Midas, get a Meteor Hammer, and then spend your time split pushing with your Meteor Hammer and looking for ganks, and then fighting by comboing your ulti into Meteor Hammer when it looks like it's a good fight. You can build into aura items in the mid to late game, blink daggers, etc. Basically build whatever utility items you think that your team needs. Vlad's is good, Aghanim Scepter eventually is good, Crimson Guard is really good, and then once you go super late, you always have to have the Ags. You can control the game with the amount of vision you get the talent to increase the vision of those little trees, and it's very hard to lose the late game with this Treant Protector hero. How you counter the hero is you essentially need heroes that shred through living armor, such as Batrider, and Jakiro's really good because he can shred through the living armor when it's put on towers as well. And also, a good way to counter him in the laning phase is to get a Quelling Blade and cut down every single tree in the lane that Treant is in before he actually shows up to the lane. So you want to start with the Quelling Blade. This is like the one scenario where in a side lane you should start with a Quelling Blade, is if it's against a Treant Protector. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, but before you go, please make sure to leave your feedback in the comments below, just because Donnie and I kind of realized that we're doing this sort of thing already on a week-by-week basis. So we're like, all right, we're going to condense this all to one nice little bite-sized series. We're already covering overrated heroes, underrated heroes, and these sorts of things. We're going to do it weekly, same day every week, every Friday, by the way, and it's very important to us that this series is good, and we're giving you guys what you want. So let me know in the comments below if there's anything you'd like me to cover, or if I'm talking too much about some bullshit. Let me know. I appreciate that as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video.